Zoning. It's one of the most important tools that cities have over individual land use. And if you're going to invest in commercial real estate, you have to understand how to look up the zoning and how to understand what impact that has on your investment. In this video, I'm going to show you examples from my existing industrial portfolio and exactly how to look up the zoning. Everything is available online, but you just need to know the process and you need to learn how to interpret the results that you find. So let's start with a broad definition. What is zoning? Zoning is a legal construct that is relatively recent in the history of things, and it essentially is a tool for local governments or municipalities to regulate land use and development within their jurisdictions. This has been the subject of a ton of controversy. Look at all of this, and everybody thinks that is being used against them. Developers think it's used to stifle development, and if you're a property owner, you think it's being used against you, the way the cities use it. So no matter who you are, zoning or the lack thereof impacts your life. So if you're an investor, you've got to watch this video to understand the critical classification as it impacts your real property. All right, so let's just start. If you watch this channel, if you're new, I'm a real estate attorney. I'm based in Dallas. I'm also a pretty significant direct industrial investor. I used to have SFR, but I sold everything a couple years ago, and I've only been buying industrial ever since. So typically these are triple net properties, low coverage IOS. I've got other videos to talk about that, but I'm a direct investor and this is what I do all the time. All right, so one of these ways is we're going to go to Google, okay? I think that one of the best ways to start is to just take a look at a property that is either listed online or maybe it's not listed, but you're going to want to go here, and when you look at a property, say, this looks like a nice piece of dirt. How do I know what the zoning is here? And this is related to the earlier question of how do you find deals? And these can be on market, they can be off market, but I want to verify the zoning. Even if a broker tells you that the zoning is X type, you want to be able to verify it for yourself. So once we have this area, we say, I like this parcel. This is a 4-acre industrial looking truck parking. It's a nice site, right? It's right off this main highway. It's proximate to other industrial users. I want to see what the zoning and what I could build on this 4-acre parcel. It's nice. These satellites get you really zoomed in. So we want to see what this is. So you're going to have to go, and it's easy. You just start with the city. And so we go here, city of Fort Worth. You don't want to look up these zoning cases. These are active zoning changes, but you want to look at a zoning map. This should give you a live interface. There you go. So we're centered on the city of Fort Worth. You're going to go up here to the search bar. I know the property address because I actually own that one, but you're going to pop the street address and it's going to get you pretty close. So let's take a look here. So now you see this pretty overlay, and I'm going to cheat because I kind of already know what these zoning areas are, but here you get a better view. You have this I, you have J and K. These are all industrial uses. So this I is the lightest industrial, J is medium, and then K is the heavy industrial. You can see this A5, which is a residential, A10. This just speaks to different density rules. You have B, mobile home, unrestricted. Yeah, so these are all interesting zoning types, but these are all residential. They have an overlay. They've got these little pockets of C, which is like a neighborhood commercial. But for us, you know, we were interested in this particular lot. It's 4900 Cary Street. And so you click on the parcel, and let's see, either we go here and we go view additional details. And right here on the side, you can see the legal description. You can see the lot and block number. You can see that owner, 4900 Cary LLC. I don't know how that typo is, but that is my office. And you can see the shape and the area and the zoning here, J. And next you're going to tell me, okay, J zoning, what does that mean, Ron? We don't know. So you're going to go back to this zoning tab and you have a summary of zoning districts. Super helpful. Fort Worth makes a nice one. Not all cities have a summary PDF like this. You may need to go into a Muni code, and hopefully we'll look up another city that doesn't have a summary. But you can see these A districts, one family, minimum lot size of 10,000 versus A5 has a minimum lot size of 5,000. So there's a little more density in the A5. What did we have? We had the CR, I think we had a CF or something like a commercial. Maybe that was an F zoning. And that's going to be your commercial retail type, high intensity. Okay, so you've got all these weird cases, but this is what I want to focus on, this industrial subsection. I, light industrial, food processing, warehousing, outside sales, max height of 55 feet for your building. Now that doesn't necessarily include antenna or different roof protrusions, but the max height of the building at any point. J, all uses permitted in I, plus breweries, and then you have a max height of 120 feet. So you're getting pretty tall here. You could build like silos, you could build, grain elevators can go up to 100 feet or something. And then that's what our zoning is. So it's J, and so it's all uses in I, including this outside sales and storage, printing, and light manufacturing. And then K is heavy industrial. This is the best in terms of most permissive and broadest value. So depending on your use case, assuming a parcel is located in identical spots, K is going to have more value because it has more options available to the owners. All uses permitted in J, which is also all uses permitted in I, which is also all uses permitted in G. It's G, intensive commercial. So you can see all of the blanket of permissive uses that you can do F, you can do FR. So if you wanted to build a hotel in J zoning, you're allowed to, and that's what's great. It keeps going down the list of commercial. Now you may not be able to build a residential home or multifamily in an industrial, but there was a Texas law that changed that, so I'll ignore that. But for general purposes, the higher the intensity, the more valuable it is depending on the location, right? So if you're next door to a coal processing, you maybe don't want to build a bowling alley next to a coal processing plant, but you could do a business nightclub, you could do a home improvement center, totally up to you. But the heavy industrial use here includes metal fabrication, asphalt mixing, welding shops, max height also of 120 feet. But so you can see why there's more uses on the heavy industrial, which makes it more valuable. All right, well, let's also look up another zoning area. Let's look at another property to see let's look at the permitted uses. So these are just zoning classifications for the building, but they don't actually list the permitted uses. And those are going to be the actual businesses that your tenant will engage in. So let's search now for Worth permitted uses. And this is going to be a table here. So we're going to get into this kind of Muni code, and it's very difficult, but this is absolutely what you need to Google when you look at permitted uses. So we're in section 4.803 non-residential district use table. You've got to find this industrial J, and then you can see one dwelling unit of household using part of a business. So that's like a live work unit. Those are super popular. Flex garages with a living unit. You could do a boarding home facility, which is a P, which is permitted. College, university, daycare center, animal shelter. And so you can see there's a lot more permitted uses than what was listed on the summary. The summary is just that. It's just a quick summary. But you have to see where K, animal shelter. So you cannot do an animal shelter in J without a variance or a zoning change, but you could do an animal shelter in K zoning. So you can't do it in J. A P star. So you could do this probation or parole office. You can do that in all of these districts. And what you have to do is go down to the bottom to see what P star means. P means permitted. P star is, I think it's a supplemental use. Here's the key to table designations. You want to look at this too. A P indicates permitted by right. P star means supplemental use standards. And SUP is different than a CUP, which could also be here. Conditional use permit reviewed and approved. And they have different set of procedures. And it's just if it's empty, then it's not allowed. And you can have different supplemental uses. And again, they give you some ideas on the screening requirements for roof mounted equipment. Dumpster enclosures, those cost a lot more money than you would think, but let's go back to this. So we're still under this J zoning. You can see a lot of these permitted temporary uses. That just means you need to tell them you can do outdoor amusement, you can do storage or outside display. Oil drilling, no, you can't do that. Gas drilling is permitted. but not oil drilling. Very interesting there. And so that's it. You know, we talk about zoning. It is incredibly important, but it's not complicated. And I want you to get into this practice of being able to look up a property and knowing exactly where to look up the zoning, and then you know where to look up the permitted or summary of uses, and then you can look up the Muni code to see what the actual permitted uses are. So if you have a question about a new development coming in, if you see a vacant lot that's for sale and you wonder, this would be a great spot for a bar, check your local zoning and you might find out that on-premise consumption of alcohol is prohibited. And so a bar is probably not going to come in there. Hope this was helpful. If you're doing industrial outdoor storage, zoning is critical. It is always one of the top 3 factors when you're evaluating a site whether you should buy. So bookmark this video and we'll see you next time.